Hi everyone, my name's Mark. I'm the vicar here at Fabric. You've got me for the next 25 maybe minutes or so. We're digging into, and for the next 2 weeks, you've got me both weeks. So if no one turns up next week, then point taken. But you got me for the next 2 weeks. We are digging in together for 2 weeks at the book of Esther in the Old Testament. I just think there is something about this book, about this story, about this amazing woman that we read about that is just something for this moment for us as a church right now. So I'm just so excited to dig into this. Caveat for this morning, I'm going to sound I know that I sound regularly as boomer as everybody thinks that I am, but it turns out there's a new level of peril that I've discovered today, which is while trying to highlight something in a particular color, on my note, I've accidentally clicked the AI cleanup button on Evernote, so who knows what's going to happen. It looks different, it looks neater. I didn't want it to be neater. I think it's all there, but who knows? So if I run out of content halfway through, it means for a shorter talk, way early bath, but yeah, so there we go. How's everyone doing? Are we okay? Yeah. Amazing. So we're going to dig into Esther, and I've got a bit of a passage today, but there's a lot of chapters in this book, and I want to make sure we are all on the exact same page with the story. And I'm quite a visual person. I'm sure you don't want me to read out 10 chapters of Esther, that just sounds like an awful idea. So we're going to try and make it a tiny little bit interactive and try and whisk through it as quickly as possible. But as I said, I'm a visual learner. So Warren, thank you for volunteering. If you could come and... So you're King Xerxes, yes. If you can just stand over there, you've got a crown. Well done. Feel free to act however you feel led. So this is King Xerxes, a man of great power, ruled loads and loads of the empire, of which a few Jews were living. So the Jews had gone back after their exile, but there was still a remnant of Jews. Hi. And King Xerxes throws, in order to celebrate his wealth and his awesomeness, 180 days of showing off everything that he owns and all of his splendor and majesty to everybody, which, just makes a lot of sense. Look at that crown. And at the end of that, so he's got a... That's for later. And at the end of his 180 days, he thinks, I'm going to have a party. So... party mode, Xerxes. I've got Tango Mango. I've got Fanta Fruit Twist, Diet Coke, normal Coke, or, let me save one of these for Esther, but I've got Elderflower Tonic. You're going to go for the DC? Great. And a purple straw for you. And then your party blower. There we go. Yeah, come on, get the drink going. Oh, you do that thing with the thing. That's clever. And you're having a party, so excellent. And there's a bit of a running theme with sort of drinking in this book, but basically they have a really good time. And a few days later, because it's multiple days of having a really good time, he calls for his wife in a completely misogynistic, highly inappropriate, and aged really poorly way. But like, wife, come to me. And wife goes, who's having her own party somewhere else, goes, nope. And so worried that it's going to set a precedent that all wives everywhere will disrespect their husbands, he says, I will depose you, wife, of being the queen, and I will find a new queen. So he sets about trying to find a new queen, and again, not a particularly helpful or grown-up or sort of wise way, but basically he does a beauty pageant of the entire empire, like a quarter of the known world. All of the pretty ladies come, and they do 12 months of beauty treatments to make them worthy of going anywhere near the king, because... And after all of this, there's a really nice local lady called Esther from Susa. Oh, well done, Joe, for volunteering. That's brilliant. Great. So Esther comes. No, you go here. That's fine. We need 4 of you, so this will be great. And you're about to get married, but not yet. So you need to do your beauty treatment, so I've got you some mascara. There you go. That's great. And then King Xerxes sees Esther. And there's loads of these women being presented in front of him, and he sees Esther, and he's just like, she is the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen, which, I mean, I can empathize with. But most beautiful thing I've ever seen. This is great. You will be my queen. So he says, I will give you everything you want. I'll give you half the kingdom. You will be my queen. This is great. And this really, really chuffs Mordecai. Well done, Cleo. Thanks. So Mordecai, despite what this might look like, is basically Esther's like great uncle, as you can see. I've cast this really well. And he's a legend. And I'd like, you've done drama degree, so you can do this. I would like you to adopt the demeanor of, you know, those families backstage at like a Britain's Got Talent X Factor style thing, who, not the ones where the person is rubbish, and they've enabled that rubbishness by saying, oh, that sounds great. And they've kept on doing that to the point where they've gone on Britain's Got Talent. Everyone's laughed at them, and it's really bad. Not that one, but the one who's like gone, you're great. You can do this. You can do it. And they know that they're great. So you have to look at Esther like that. You have to like, yeah, there we go. That's brilliant. So Mordecai is like encouraging Britain's Got Talent family level sort of person. He knows that Esther is beautiful. He knows that she's brilliant. Her parents died, and he's raised her himself. And every day when Esther goes to get her beauty treatments, he's there waiting outside, like one of the In the Wings Britain Got Talent people chatting to Dermot O'Leary, being like, I can't wait to see what God's going to do with you. It's really awesome and really exciting. And at the same time, there's this really bad guy. Thanks, Joe Bright. I know you're hiding at the back to try and get away with it, but this really bad guy called Haman. Boo! Yeah, well done, everyone. Now I know this doesn't come naturally to you, so I've AI'd this. 3 ways for you to model being a bad guy. You need to create an intimidating stare. Oh. Number 2, design a menacing posture. Oh! And apparently this one took me by surprise. Number 3, master the smirk. Okay. And all 3 at once? Yeah, that was it. So there we go. We've got our cast. This is basically everything that's happening. So these guys are all in play now. And so Mordecai, while he's waiting for Esther and sort of having her, like beauty treatment one day, her mascara or something else, like face mask or something like that, Mordecai overhears 2 guys talking about how they're going to kill the king. And so he goes and tells the king what's going to happen, and he saved the king's life, and the naughty guys get told off, and like bad stuff happens to them, but we won't talk about that. So the king is really happy, and he writes it down in the history book so that no one forgets it. He then immediately forgets it. Then Haman, boo, goes, actually, I want to be the greatest person in the kingdom apart from the king. So you should all give me lots of, like love and loyalty. He goes and asks the king if that's all right. The king says, yeah, you can be like number 2 in the kingdom. That will be great. So Haman goes, I think we should make a rule where everybody has to kneel down to me. And king goes, yeah, that sounds all right. That's fine. So Haman goes, great. And he walks around basically going, hey, you, kneel down. Hey, you, kneel down. And he does this to Mordecai. So he says, hey, Mordecai, kneel down to me. And Mordecai goes, nope. There we go. Synced. That was fantastic. And so Haman has a proper strop, and he's just like, right, we need to sort this out. But we need to not just like kill Mordecai, which would be really easy. We're going to like nuke their entire race. So we're going to get rid of all the Jews in this entire kingdom with 180 different provinces across the world. So Haman goes to the king again and gets him to sign this thing saying in like 9 months' time, anyone is allowed to go and just kill the Jews in whichever city they're in. You just do that. That will be great. That will be fine. At this point, Esther and Mordecai, who are both Jewish but haven't told anybody that they're Jewish, they're sort of, like foreigners living in a different culture. They're like, oh no, this is bad. And we join our passage for the day. You guys stay here for a little bit while we do the passage. You're doing really well. Like everybody's looking at you, but it's all right. So we're in Esther chapter 4, verses 10 to 16. Then she instructed him to say to the Mordecai, this is Esther talking to one of her servant people, all the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king, because Mordecai said, why don't you go and tell the king that this is going to happen? Anyone who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned by the king, there's one law, that they be put to death unless the king extends the golden scepter, which is your umbrella of justice. There we go. To them and spares their lives. Thanks, Joe. But 30 days have passed since I was called to go to the king. When Esther's words are reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer. This is gold, and this is where we're going to land today. Do not think that because you are in the king's house, you alone of all the Jews will escape. For if you remain silent at this time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place. If you don't help God sort this out, he will still sort this out because he's God. But you and your father's family will perish. And this is what we're going to dig into today. And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. Then Esther sent this reply to Mordecai, go, gather all the Jews who are in Susa, which is where they were, and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law. And if I perish, I perish. Brave. So, and this is like the middle of the book. And then basically there's this, it's written in perfect symmetry. And so the same stuff basically happens backwards after this point. Esther goes to see the king and says, will you come to a party tomorrow? So she invites Haman and the king to a party tomorrow. You're invited. You have to blow your thing as well. Yes, that's excellent. And at the party, she says, I've got something to ask you. And so the king goes, what do you want to ask me? And she goes, can you come to another party tomorrow? So she throws an even better party the next day. Oh, no, these don't come. Okay, you get to. A better party the next day. Blow your blows. Yeah, this is excellent. And at that point, she says, I'm a Jew. And the people that you're trying to kill, I don't think you should kill. I want you to do something about that. At the same time as this, Haman is late for the party. I shouldn't have got you to blow your blower, sorry. He's late for the party because he's having a real strop about Mordecai. And so he's come and he's going to ask if the king will kill Mordecai and impale him on a pole that's why he's late for the party. He's been building a pole at his house to impale Mordecai on. It's really grim. At the same point, over the previous night, the king couldn't sleep, and so he's getting read to him the books of history in which the thing that he'd forgotten, but he made sure was written down, that Mordecai saved his life. He read. Amazing coincidence. Or is it not coincidence, it's God? No. And so Haman comes in and goes, what will you do to celebrate the best person in the country? Which obviously means him. And the king goes, I'll celebrate them. I'll give them a horse. I'll give them loads of fancy clothes. I'll get everyone to bow down to them. He's just like, yeah, we should do that. And he's like, yeah, go do that to Mordecai because he saved my life and I forgot about it. So brutally, Haman has to go and do that. And then Esther says to the king about the Jews, and please don't let them kill us. So he does a new law. They all get saved. Haman ends up on the spike. Let's celebrate all of these people for standing up for so long. Yeah, put them in the box of stuff. Are we all on vaguely the same page about Esther now? Great. I think there are 3 things in this passage that I think God really wants us to dig into today. And I'm basing it around that verse in the middle. And who knows that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this. I think there are 3 things that God wants to say this morning. Firstly, God is always at work. God is always at work, even if you can't see it. There were 2 very pervasive things going on in the moment that Mordecai and Esther existed within. And I think they're almost identical to the stuff that's going on in our world at the moment. There were current challenges. It was hard. It was different. There was stuff coming against them. Mordecai had someone who wanted to kill him. Esther had this peril of going to see the king. There was fear. There was worry. Life wasn't just easy. They couldn't just take what they wanted. There were current challenges, but there was also a pervading consuming culture. So current challenges and consuming culture is exactly the same as what we're in at the moment. Life is hard. Life is difficult. Life can be challenging. But at the same time, sometimes if we're really honest, we feel like as Christians, we're exiles in our own place. We feel different to everybody else. We feel that the world it has sort of shifted and is occupying a different cultural moment to that we feel that we're in. We fall victim to these lies that God is distant, God is absent, he's silent, he's not involved, he doesn't care. We feel that culturally we've gone too far away from God. We, if you're anything like me, say regularly, this has gone so far that God, you can't bring it back. You can't change it. You can't move this mountain. And this is why I love the book of Esther. Because weirdly, and it's the only book in the Bible that does this, God is not mentioned once in the book of Esther, and it's almost to prove a point. To say that even though he's not explicitly active, anyone who reads the story, particularly in retrospect, can see that he's moving through everything, that he's orchestrating or is part of or has authority over every single coincidence and thing that happens. Whether God seems, sometimes, there's this line from this old song that Martin Smith wrote called, what's it called? My Heart Burns for You, Obsession. And he describes, he says, sometimes it feels like God is further away than the moon. And sometimes it feels that he's closer than my skin. Have we ever existed in that tension of having these moments where we feel God is really, really close and other moments where he feels just infinitely far away? And it feels like the book of Esther is telling us for those moments where he feels really far away, he is still active. He is still up to something. Your perception of God is not directly proportional to his activity in your life. God is on the move through all of this mess, through all of the debauchery, through not that he orchestrates it, not that he permits it, or not that he says that it's acceptable, but he's doing it all. He's in the middle of it all. He's bringing out his plans and his purposes from it all. He is saving his people through it all. One of the theologians that wrote about the book of Esther, a lady called Karen Jobe, said this: beneath the surface of every seemingly insignificant human decision and event, an unseen and uncontrollable power is at work that can be neither explained nor thwarted. That can be neither explained nor thwarted. I love that. And so I just want to ask you, do you think you're in one of those seasons at the moment? Where maybe you've had in the past where God is closer than your skin, but maybe right now in this moment he feels further away than the moon. And actually the lie that's in your head or the thing that you are wrestling with at the moment is he even doing anything? Is he even doing anything in my life? Do I need to change something? Do I need to shift something in order for him to be active? And it might be that you need to change something or shift something in order to experience the presence of him. That's not necessarily completely wrong. But it doesn't mean that he's not active and participating and doing stuff in your life behind the scenes without you seeing. One of the biggest privileges that we will have when we stand with God in glory, we'll be able to see all the tiny and massive things that he did in and with and through us over the course of our life with the people that we were around. I've lost my pine cone. I don't know where it's gone. Oh, it's here. I found my pine cone. So me and Joe went on quite a chaotic holiday, which I'll explain more about in a week. But this place where we went to, it's surrounded by pine trees, which makes for it sort of this weird mashup of incredibly beautiful, but also like terrible peril for your morning burpees, because every time you go down, you just find another one sort of perfectly angled to hurt you in a certain way. Then you clear a little area and then you find some more. I brought this pine cone because whenever I think of pine cones, they always remind me of this one particular tree in America called the jack pine. And their pine cones are a little bit different. They're a bit uglier than this one, and they're a bit bigger. And all of the little holes that you see here, you know, when a pine cone falls down and these bits come out, and then they get the sort of size and openness where your mum might be prepared to put them in a bowl in the middle of the table. And then the seeds fall out. And this one doesn't open up, and its seeds don't fall out, because it's specifically engineered and designed to be bound together with this really tight, really thick resin that only melts away under the most intense heat. The only way that the jack pine cones germinate and release their seeds is in the context of a forest fire that's destroyed the tree that it's come from. And I just think there's something from this book that speaks to this reality that we see in that crazy pine cone, that maybe sometimes this is not saying endure stuff that's wrong for you. It's not saying tolerate abuse. It's saying you might be in a really difficult situation at the moment where you see that God is really, really far away. And the book of Esther this morning is telling you that he has a plan. He has a purpose. He is with you. He is active. There will be a way through the mess. Sometimes there are things that just only get birthed through fire, through mess, through difficulty. As Paul said in Romans, we glory in our sufferings, which is such an easy thing to say and such an impossible thing to live out, because we know that suffering produces perseverance, perseverance, character, character, hope, and hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit. Bonhoeffer, the late great theologian who basically was one of the leading lights in the confessing church during the season of Nazi Germany, said this: "I believe that God can and will bring good out of evil, even out of the greatest evil," which is profound given the context he was writing in. "For that purpose, he needs people who will make the best use of everything. I believe that God will give us the strength we need to help us resist in times of distress, but he never gives it in advance, lest we should rely on ourselves and not on him alone. A faith as this should allay all our fears for the future." I know I'm not quite have the level of faith that he does, but it's something to aspire to, isn't it? So number one, God is at work, whether he's obviously doing it or not, whether you can see it or not. Number two, God has placed you where you are for a reason. Even if it doesn't feel like it, God has placed you where you are for a reason. There's this lie that we can so often tell ourselves: my job has no impact on the kingdom of God. It makes no difference if I try and be Jesus at work, in my home, in my street, in my school, in my university, in my workplace. It just doesn't seem like I'm getting anywhere, like I'm making any difference. And yet the book of Esther says this: "And who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this." That there have been things that have been orchestrated behind the scenes by the creator of the heavens and the earth to make sure that the king saw you as infinitely beautiful in that moment so that you could save God's people. You have come to your royal position for such a time as this. I wonder how you feel about your life and your work and the places where you're called to be amongst at the moment, whether you feel that you're thriving and that you're coming alive, or whether that's actually a place of real hardship and real struggle and real difficulty. And I wonder what would shift in you if you knew that God had placed you in that place for a reason. And this is, again, not to sort of spiritually, sort of persuade you to stay in contexts that are not right for you, or where there's abuse involved, or where, there's unacceptable challenges. But there is this moment that I think for most of us, we just need to believe that it's not church on Sunday and then just everything else is just this, coping until we can get back to church again. It's all one thing. We're all on the same team. It's all the same vision, which is to see a city hear about the good news of Jesus modeled through our lives and occasionally our words. You are placed where you are placed for a reason, even if it doesn't feel like it. And so maybe some of us need to be more like pine cones this morning. But maybe some of us need to be more like frigate birds. I've got a photo of a frigate bird. They're actually massive. Their wingspan's like 7 foot, which is big. I wouldn't want to meet. Yeah, that'd be scary. 7 foot. So this is what they look like in their chilled out state, which is just like a normal bird with a little bit of flair under his beak. But when it comes to mating season, everything changes. And this is what happens. They blow up that, they blow up that floppy pouch at the front. And from going for this insignificant, I'm trying to be a turkey, but I've not quite got there yet, it turns into this most iconic, amazing thing. It says in the Bible, always be ready to give an answer to anyone who asks you for the reason, that the hope that you have. Romans tells us to not be ashamed of the gospel, for it is the power of salvation for everyone who believes. What does it look like for us, wherever we're called to, wherever we're placed, to just hold our faith on our sleeve a little bit more, to just not shy away from those conversations, even if it brings confusion and uncertainty and embarrassment, to offer that prayer for hope or for healing, to make that invite to Alpha or to church? What does it look like for us to puff out our faith instead of just hold it back? They say, and what's that floppy red pouch? Oh yeah, it's just whatever. Instead of which obviously there's balances. You don't have to be completely extreme. What does it look like for us to be more frigate bird? So more pine cone, more frigate bird. This is where the nature examples stop, so you're fine. So number 1, God is at work. Number 2, God has placed you where you are for a reason. And number 3, it's the addition of number 1 and number 2. So obviously that does maths as well. But if we believe these 2 things, if we can get ourselves to the point where we can believe these 2 things, that means something else. So if we can believe that God is at work, if we can truly believe that even when he doesn't look like it, he's at work, he is doing something. If number 2, we can believe that we as individuals, not just we corporately, but me, Mark, I am placed here for a reason, for a purpose. If we believe those 2 things to be true, it must mean a third thing, which is this, that God's not finished with you yet. That God's not finished with you as an individual yet. Not just us as the whole church, which is true as well. You as an individual. Even if you don't believe it. Even if you believe that you can't make a difference. Even if you believe that someone is better. Maybe the person sat next to you. Even if you believe that you're not good enough. All of which are lies, by the way. God is not finished with you yet. And so I want to ask the question this morning, what does it look like to just put your life into sports mode? We had a car. We still have it, but it's in a number of different, I should have got the photo, shouldn't I? A number of different pieces in the garage. We went on holiday up to the Lake District this last week. Joe drove the kids. And me and Sam went somewhere else, and we drove up, or they drove up. They got 2/3 of the way to the Lake District, and all of the lights came on at once, and it made some rattling noise, and steam came out the front, and Joe diagnosed this as bad. So pulled over on the side, inquired of the people that come to pick her up, let them know how many, sort of dependents there were, and the dog was very distressed, and so they came really quickly. And the person came out, and he agreed, this is bad. The thing that makes the engine go round is broken, and may have broken the engine. It's just that is bad. So it took you about twice as long, if not 3 times as long, that you had already taken to then get back home to where you started. At which point I was tasked, because we got back, to go and get a hire car. So we went and got a hire car. And then we drove up and went on holiday. And the hire car was infinitely smaller than our normal car. And so it was just terrible on every sort of metric. Alfie was sat in, our dog, and was sat in the front footwell, sort of like this, the whole way. He was so unhappy, and he's really good at I'm really unhappy, but at least you've taken me on holiday eyes. Which he's able to, he did communicate that, and it was great. The kids are like this in the back, just this is different to normal. We've taken only 1/3 of the stuff. But as I saw, we got everybody in the car, and we got off the motorway, and the place where we were staying is about a 40-minute drive from the motorway into the middle of nowhere in the Lake District, and you're on the windy country roads. And I was like, oh, hey guys, something about this car that's not terrible? Unlike everything else, it has sport mode. And the 3 kids on the back are all just like, what is that? And Joe's like, nope. I was just like, well, look what happens if I press sports mode. So I went boop, and then this thing comes on the dashboard that basically tells you you're a hero. It's yeah. And it looks like Top Gear. It's just now, it's gone from nice family car to Top Gear. Like one of those things, that they do when they, of the dashboard. And all 3 kids were like, yeah. Because the suspension goes really stiff, and it makes every time you press the accelerator, it's just 10 times more twitchy than it previously was, and the steering's really responsive. And literally the 3 children at the back are yeah. Lucy, our 4-year-old's Mummy, my hands are sweating. I'm having so much fun. Joe's in the front, literally white as a sheet, just we've had enough trauma today. Please no more. And I've just been reflecting on this all week. And bizarrely, I think it's the most, sort of British, weirdly middle class, hire car analogy of all time. But what would it look like for us in the context of believing that God is at work, always, whether he looks like it or not, that he's placed us where we are for a purpose? Do we truly understand that he's not finished with us yet? What does it look like to respond to that? And the analogy is it kind of looks like putting ourselves into sports mode, because there's numerous other options on that car. I can go for eco, which is just try and cause as little damage to everything around me as possible and, try to, keep it cost efficient. Or I can go for normal, which is just like everybody else can look at this and go, you're doing all right, that's fine, well done, you're doing great. Or there's even like slippery ice mode. I can be super cautious and really careful and make sure that I don't damage anything. Or I can put it into the mode where it behaves like the way in which it was designed to be, the way in which it was designed to behave. I can put it into the mode where the Creator has said, this is the best way for it to be used. This is the way that you will get the most out of it. This is the way that you will go on the biggest adventure. And actually in the context of us like breaking this car and sort of chatting to the mechanic who refused to talk to us over our holiday because the news about the engine of this car was so bad, which is always a really bad sign. I found myself praying like eco mode prayers and normal mode prayers instead of sports mode prayers. Because if we're really honest, if we read the Bible, it makes complete sense. We're not called to comfort. We're called to faith. We're not called to just keep things ticking over. We're called to adventure. But actually, if I'm really honest, I've been praying comfort prayers all week. I've been praying, will that not cost that much? Or will that not be too much of an impact? Or will it be fixed sooner? Which are all fine prayers to pray. But I kind of realized that at no point have I also said, God, what are you doing in this moment? And what level of faith do you want to take me to? What sort of adventure are you taking me on? And I want, if I'm truly honest, and I'm so far from doing this, so don't see me as particularly good at this, I want to be like the kids in the back seat, going, my hands are sweaty. This is great. And so the challenge that I have for you today is, what does it look like to put your life into sports mode? When was the last time God took you, or you allowed God to take you on an adventure? To push you out of your comfort zone? To let him operate your life in a way that it was truly designed to be operated at? What does that look like for you today? Maybe for some people in the room, it means leveling up the amount that you're giving to the church, not so that I feel better or so that it's easier for us to church, because you need to go on an adventure of faith where he pushes you out of your comfort zone. And you realize in that moment of faith that he has infinite more provision, infinite more ability than you could ever have asked or imagined. Maybe you need to be more, frigate bird at work. Maybe you need to hold your faith on your sleeve just that little bit more obviously. Maybe you need to engage in those conversations instead of distancing yourself from those conversations. Maybe you need to work out what it looks like to just find ways in to talk about your faith at work, at school, at university. Maybe it means being more pinecone. Maybe it means having hope in those really, really difficult times. That as the heat gets so intense that resin starts melting, there's a God who can actually turn that into new life and new birth and new hope in the context of even the most difficult scenarios. And this talk is totally not about what I'm going to say next, because we have a really specific vision, which Joe has articulated perfectly, around serving the church. But it might be that in the context, one of the things, not the thing, one of the things that you do in the context of what does it look like for me to put my life into sports mode is considering getting involved in a team at church. This is totally not all of that is just for this moment, but it might be that might be something that would bring you life as well. We're really, really clear at Fabric that it's not staff and everybody else, it's one team. We do church together. We are one big family on a mission to see Jesus impact this city. And the single best thing that any of us can do to serve that vision is to do whatever we need to do on Sunday to be ready to be Jesus for the places where we are on Monday. And if it brings you life, if it helps you to find community and connection, to find other people to push you along or to journey with you, then we would love you to join one of our teams. We would love you to participate in church in that way. But if you need to come and just be and just get fed so that you can then go and do whatever you need to do in the week, then that's absolutely fine as well. That's why we got this Freshers Fair thing on downstairs, just so that you can chat to some of the people who are involved. When we finished, we'll put this team slide up, and the QR code will just take you straight to a sign-up form. Click anything you're interested in. We will get back to you this week to talk about having a coffee. But what does it look like for you to put your life into sports mode today? What does it look like for you to press that button and to level up? Not because God wants us to do it out of duty or about guilt, but because he made you, because he loves you, because he's on the move, whether you can see it or not, because he's placed you where you are for a purpose, and he wants to impact this city through you, whether you believe that he can or not. Shall we stand, and we're just going to spend some time just leaning into God as we finish.